She said she didn't want a complicated man. She said she liked kindness, stability, a good heart. But the man she couldn't stop thinking about? He wasn't kind. He wasn't safe. He was chaos in disguise. And the part that haunted her wasn't his strength. It was his cracks, the ones he never showed until it was too late. That's the paradox no one talks about. Women chase mystery, not clarity. They crave the man who gives them just enough to stay, but never enough to own him. That's the man they dream about when the house is quiet. That's the man they compare everyone else to. And here's the truth. No dating coach will ever say out loud, a woman's deepest desire isn't for a perfect man. It's for a man who seems untouchable until she finds the part of him that bleeds. What draws her in isn't just power, it's contrast. It's the cold man who, for a brief second, lets her feel warmth. It's the confident man who hints, just once, that he's not invincible. That contrast is addictive. It triggers the deepest instincts in her psychology. Not because she's broken, but because evolution made her that way. The protector who doesn't need anyone but chooses her. The dangerous man who walks through the world like he owns it, but shows weakness only in her arms. That man is unforgettable. That man is dangerous. That man understands the art of seduction isn't just dominance, it's timing, controlled exposure, calculated imperfection. Machiavelli didn't write about love, but he understood power and attraction. At its core is a power dynamic. You're either the man who makes her feel or the one she forgets. So here's the brutal truth. If you're always available, always explaining yourself, always emotionally transparent, you're not being honest. You're being consumed. Predictability is the death of desire. The moment she feels she's figured you out, the chase ends. And what replaces it is boredom. She might appreciate you, but she won't crave you, because what she truly craves is tension. The emotional roller coaster between wanting more and fearing she's losing you. That's why the man who holds back, who moves like he has a kingdom to protect, gets remembered, because he makes her feel uncertainty. And uncertainty is the birthplace of obsession. You don't need to be a narcissist. You need to be strategic. Machiavelli said it best. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But in seduction, the highest level isn't fear or love, it's longing. You become the man she can't possess but can't stop chasing. The man whose mind she can't read. The one who shows her strength then in rare moments exposes just enough pain to make her feel chosen, not by chance, but by decision. Because your weakness was never uncontrolled. It was intentional. It made her feel special, different, needed. That's what women truly fall for, not the man who begs, not the man who overshares, but the man whose silence speaks louder than another man's desperate honesty. You have to understand something. Most men never learn. When you try too hard to be understood, you become predictable. And predictable men are safe. But safe men don't haunt memories. They don't twist stomachs in the middle of the night. They don't make her look twice when she sees your name pop up. Unsafe men. Men who carry themselves with calm detachment, with the discipline to reveal only fragments. Those are the ones who live in her imagination. And once you're in there, you don't even have to chase. You become the reward she creates in her own mind. This is where desire meets weakness. Not as an accident, but as a weapon. You control when she sees behind the armor, and when she does, it's never messy, it's never desperate, it's always intentional. And that's what separates a man who gets attention from a man who creates obsession. You must look at your life like a fortress. Every word you say, every secret you share, every access you give costs something. If she didn't earn it, it means nothing. But if she had to fight for it, now it's priceless. Now it's unforgettable. That's why the man who blends Machiavellian control with emotional precision becomes magnetic. He knows how to disappear to be missed, how to return just enough to be remembered, how to speak without explaining, how to reveal without bleeding. Women don't want to fix you. They want to feel that they're the only ones who ever saw what's real behind your mask, and you give them that illusion, not all at once, but in pieces. Pieces that are rare, pieces that are expensive, because anything that's always available loses its value, but something rare, that becomes sacred. So the next time you're tempted to pour your heart out, Don't. Wait. Watch. Let silence speak. Let her wonder. Let her feel the tension. When she texts, don't rush. When she asks, answer briefly. When she pushes, pull away. Because the minute she feels she has you, she doesn't want you. Not the way she did when she was chasing something she couldn't define. This isn't manipulation. It's psychological discipline. You're teaching her to value you. And that only happens when she feels you could walk away at any moment, and she'd lose something irreplaceable. This is what modern men need to understand. You don't need better pickup lines. You don't need to act like an alpha. You need to master contrast, strength and softness, mystery and presence, confidence and hidden pain. Those are the tools of the man who doesn't just date women. He leaves a mark. Not because he begged for her attention, but because he became unforgettable. Desire meets weakness, but only when weakness is rare, unexpected, and offered by choice, not out of need. That's the secret women can't resist. Most men today are starved for connection. They're told to open up more, be more emotional, more expressive, but no one tells them the truth. That emotional exposure without control doesn't make you attractive. It makes you disposable. Women respect strength. They're moved by honesty, but only when it's rare, when it costs something. Think of your emotions like currency. If you give it freely to everyone, it becomes worthless. But if you give it in moments of intensity, silence, scarcity, it shakes her. It leaves a scar. It becomes unforgettable. That's what you want. Not comfort, not approval, but impact. When a woman says, "He's different," she's not talking about his looks or money. She's talking about a feeling, a tension, a polarity. A presence that doesn't beg, doesn't over-explain, doesn't validate itself. A presence that doesn't collapse under pressure. That's the kind of man she'll fantasize about years after he's gone. And the brutal part, that man might not even say much. He might not reveal anything too personal. But the way he moves, the way he withholds, creates an emotional charge she can't get anywhere else. Women don't want to lead the dance. They want to be pulled into it. And that requires you to understand something ancient, something buried deep in your blood. Masculine. Energy creates stability through unpredictability. It's the paradox most men never learn. She doesn't want you to be random. She wants you to be deliberate, inconsistent by design. She wants to feel like you're in control of every reaction, especially hers. And when she senses that, when she feels your restraint, she leans in, she invests, she obsesses. This is where most men fall apart. They get a little attention, a little affection, and they break character. They chase, they overshare. They try to secure the connection. Instead of holding space for tension, they try to be everything too fast. And in doing so, they kill the mystery. They kill the desire because they think comfort equals connection. But in the world of feminine attraction, comfort often equals death of polarity. She doesn't want you to collapse into her. She wants to feel your presence and still fear deep down that she could lose you at any moment. That's what makes her hold on tighter. That's what makes her stay. Machiavelli said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." In other words, timing is everything. Reveal too much too soon and you lose leverage. Wait too long and you miss your window. The key is to drip value, to show just enough that she questions what's underneath, but not enough to ever feel certain. That uncertainty is magnetic. She starts interpreting everything you do, every silence, every pause, every message. She starts investing her imagination into the version of you she wants to see, and that's the power of restraint. You're not manipulating her. You're disciplining yourself. You're showing her that you don't move emotionally unless it matters, that you've been through hell and now you choose your softness wisely, that your openness isn't a given, it's a reward, and she has to earn it. Because if she doesn't earn it, she won't value it, and the moment she doesn't value it, you become ordinary, replaceable, forgotten. Every powerful man understands the game isn't about chasing affection. It's about becoming a man whose energy is so rare that a woman feels like she's discovering a secret. A man who doesn't need to dominate, but whose presence commands attention. He doesn't yell. He doesn't flex. He doesn't perform. He just is. And in that silence, in that self-possession, he becomes the most dangerous thing in the room. A man who doesn't need to be understood. A man who can walk away. That ability to walk away is your greatest weapon. It's not coldness, it's self-respect. It's the signal that you're not afraid of loss. And paradoxically, that's what makes you harder to lose. Because now, you're not just another man looking for validation. You're a man with purpose, with mystery, with emotional discipline. That's what builds obsession. Not games, not lies, not pretending, but owning your edge, owning your story, owning your restraint. And when you do reveal your weakness, when you finally show a crack, it's powerful. Because it doesn't feel needy. It feels earned. It feels like a gift. It makes her feel like she broke through your walls, like she became the exception. And nothing triggers emotional bonding in a woman more than believing she's the only one who got to see the man behind the mask. So don't give her what she wants too easily. Give her something deeper. Give her contrast. Give her the cold stare and the soft hand, the confidence and the pause, the independence and the moment of vulnerability that's so rare she tells no one about it. That's when she falls. Not for what you said, but for what you didn't. Not for how much you gave, but for how selective you were when you gave it. Desire doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in space, in silence, in unpredictability. If she can't predict you, she can't control you. And if she can't control you, she'll never stop thinking about you. Because every interaction becomes a question. Does he want me? Is he holding back? Why does this feel so different? That psychological tension. That's what no amount of looks, money, or charm can buy. It's what men who understand power carry with them. Quietly, calmly, relentlessly. You don't need to become someone else. You need to refine who you are, sharpen it, harden it. Stop bleeding for people who didn't even ask for your blood. Stop giving away pieces of your soul just to feel seen. Let them earn the privilege of access. Be warm, but unpredictable. Be kind, but distant. Be honest, but always a little withheld. And when you reveal weakness, let it be laced with strength. The kind of strength that says, I've been through hell and I'm still standing. You can come close, but only if I let you. That is the essence of power in attraction. That is how desire meets weakness and transforms it into obsession. That is the secret they can't resist. But here's what most men will never understand. Value isn't about how much you can offer. It's about how much of yourself you're willing to withhold. The rarest things in life are not rare because they don't exist. They're rare because not everyone gets access. Think of gold, diamonds, ancient art. Their value comes from limitation, from controlled access, from selective revelation. You must become the same. You are not for everyone. And when a woman realizes that, when she feels she's not guaranteed a piece of you, something shifts in her. She becomes aware that this isn't casual anymore, that she's not just dealing with a man who wants her. She's dealing with a man she could lose even if he wants her. That fear, that subtle fear of loss, that's what pulls her deeper. And the deeper she goes, the more invested she becomes. This isn't about manipulation. It's about breaking the cycle that ruins most connections. Overexposure. Most men destroy the very attraction they work so hard to build because they give too much, too soon. They reveal every thought, every emotion, every fear, hoping that full honesty will create intimacy. But real intimacy isn't built through exposure. It's built through earned access, through layers, through challenge, through the feeling that she had to work to see the man behind the exterior. That's what makes her stay. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He wrote that men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear. The man who can balance both, the one she fears losing and longs to understand, becomes psychologically irreplaceable. He becomes mythic, not because he pretends, but because he disciplines himself. He lets his silence do the talking. He lets his pauses create tension, and tension is the birthplace of desire. Ask yourself, are you the kind of man she can read in one night? Or are you the kind she obsesses over, trying to decipher what's real and what's restrained? Most men are entirely readable. They give their cards up front. They explain themselves. They validate. They overshare. Not because they're honest, but because they're afraid of not being accepted. And here lies the ugly truth. If you need to be accepted, you've already lost your edge. You've already submitted. But the man who does not seek to be accepted, who chooses to reveal only what matters when it matters, that man becomes unforgettable. Because she didn't just meet a man. She met a standard. Women test men not to be cruel, but to feel. To feel where the man's center is. To feel whether he folds, explains, justifies, seeks approval. Every emotional reaction you give away too easily, every time you break composure to prove yourself, you lose gravity. You lose the very energy that made her curious in the first place. And when that curiosity dies, so does her desire. She might still like you, she might still respect you, but she won't need you. And that's the difference. You don't want to be liked, you want to be needed. Not for protection, not for provision, but because you make her feel something no one else does, the overwhelming sensation that she's falling into something she doesn't fully understand. That's what most relationships lack: mystery. Not because mystery is manipulative, but because mystery is the language of tension. And tension is what keeps her present, curious, alert, engaged. You must become a mirror she can't figure out. She sees her reflection in your presence, but not all of it. Just enough to stay, just enough to wonder. That wondering is what creates emotional intensity. That's what makes her think about you at midnight. That's what makes her replay your silences, your body language, your half smiles, because it felt like something, even if she can't describe it. You want to be that man. Not the man who says too much, but the man whose absence is louder than another man's words. The man who could open up but doesn't, not unless it's earned. The man whose mind is a locked room with one flickering light, and when she steps inside, when she finally sees something raw, something dark, something real, it moves her. It anchors her. Not because you were weak, but because you trusted her enough to show her something no one else sees. That's the game. That's the seduction. That's the secret. You show her strength. And when she least expects it, when the bond is taut and electric, you let her see the fracture. Not to beg, not to trauma dump, but to let her feel chosen. That she, out of everyone, saw something that was meant only for her. And that's what haunts her. Not the sex, not the compliments, not the gifts. The feeling that she was the exception, that your mask cracked, but only for her. That feeling is addictive. She won't forget it, because it wasn't performative. It was sacred. So stop trying to be impressive, start becoming undeniable. Stop chasing attention, start building presence. The man who understands this, who blends Machiavellian discipline with emotional control, doesn't fear loss. He creates it. He disappears to be missed. He returns to be remembered. He never explains. He never defends. He walks through the world like a storm in human form, calm but capable of lightning. That's the energy that draws her in, not because she's weak, but because she's wired to feel. And no woman feels deeply around a man who's emotionally flat, predictable, desperate to be understood. She feels deeply around a man who makes her heart race, who makes her question her certainty, who speaks less, but moves her more. You want to be that man, the man who doesn't reveal everything, who knows his worth, who bleeds with precision, not recklessly but with meaning. And once you master this, once you truly own this energy, you'll realize you never needed to chase, because you became gravity itself. Women don't want to orbit a man, they want to fall, and fall they will. The modern man thinks love is earned through performance, through gestures, through consistency. But he forgets one thing. Performance is expected. Mystery is remembered. You don't want her to say, "He's such a good guy." You want her to say, "I don't know what it is about him, but I can't stop thinking about him." That sentence, "I don't know what it is everything. Because it means she's feeling something beneath logic, something primal, something she can't articulate. And that's when she's yours, not because you asked, but because she chose. Obsession doesn't grow from predictability. It grows from contrast, from the warmth of your gaze followed by the chill of your detachment, from the nights you're fully present and the days you disappear without a trace. Not because you're playing games, but because your life doesn't revolve around her. She is not your purpose, she's a part of your kingdom, not the throne itself. And once she realizes she doesn't control you, that her beauty, her body, her attention can't sway your center, she starts investing. She starts chasing. She starts wondering if she is enough for you. That's the shift. Most men are stuck in the trap of proving. They want to prove they're worthy, that they're different, that they're safe, but safety alone doesn't spark fire. It creates friendship, comfort, security. And slowly, attraction dies. She doesn't need you to be dangerous, but she needs to feel that you could be. That underneath your calm eyes is a chaos you've mastered, that you've faced your demons, that you're not afraid to lose her. Because that right there is what makes her stay. The moment she realizes you're not available in the ways most men are, that you're not emotionally needy, not seeking approval, not chasing closeness for the sake of comfort, she has a choice to make. She either rises to meet your standard or she fades, and you let her fade. Because you don't chase, you attract. And the only way to attract at that level is to withhold with purpose. Every time you speak, it matters. Every time you reveal, it shakes her. Because your words aren't cheap, your time isn't free, and your energy doesn't scatter. This isn't about pretending to be a stonewall. This is about understanding the one law no one teaches men anymore. If you want to be valued, become rare. You must become emotionally expensive. Most men leak their feelings everywhere. Every frustration, every fear, every ounce of need. They spill it without filter. Not because they're real, but because they're undisciplined. Because they confuse emotional vomiting with authenticity. Real emotional power doesn't scream. It whispers, it's precise. It's felt in what you don't say and what you choose not to reveal. Machiavelli didn't write for the weak. He wrote for men who understood that power is not about being loved. It's about being respected first and then desired. And sometimes, you must be willing to risk being misunderstood in order to hold your frame. Women respect men who have that risk in their blood. The risk of walking away, the risk of being misread, the risk of being alone, because the man who needs her validation is forever beneath her. But the man who stands firm, even when misunderstood, becomes something more than attractive. He becomes unchallenged, a force, and that's what pulls her in. Not softness without structure, but emotion with direction, depth with discipline. So how do you use weakness without being weak? You reveal it like a sword drawn in a silent room, slowly, intentionally. You talk about your past without turning it into a therapy session. You let your darkness show, just enough to let her see you've survived something, but never in a way that begs for pity. Because pity is not seductive. But vulnerability, when it's shown without apology, when it's controlled, when it's offered like a relic instead of a wound, that's unforgettable. That's how you make her trust you with her softness, because she senses yours is dangerous. This kind of presence can't be faked. You either build it or you don't, and it's built in silence, in solitude, in hardship. You become this man by walking through seasons where no one claps, no one calls, no one saves you. You build it by denying the impulse to chase every woman who shows you attention. You build it by suffering without broadcasting your suffering, by leveling up without posting the process, by disappearing and returning as someone sharper, someone heavier, someone who doesn't explain his glow. You will lose people on this path. You will lose women who wanted access without investment, who wanted to feel special without earning it. Let them go. Because if they didn't value your presence when it was rare, they were never meant for your future. The right woman, the real woman, doesn't want full access on day one. She wants to earn it. She wants the process, the unraveling, the slow burn. She wants the tension, because she knows what's easy is forgettable. But what's earned, what's revealed layer by layer, that stays, that haunts, that becomes legend, become the man who gives that experience, who never brags, who never performs, who never explains his silence, who lets the world wonder what he's thinking, what he's planning, what he's hiding. Not because you're empty, but because you're too full to be cheap, too complex to be figured out in one night, too rare to be offered to everyone. And when you speak, when you touch, when you reveal even a fragment of yourself, it changes. Her, because it wasn't expected. It wasn't owed. It was chosen. That's the man she dreams about, not because he says the perfect thing, but because he feels like a storm she wants to survive. Calm on the surface, but underneath, intensity, power, precision, that's what makes her fall again and again, not for your effort, but for your energy. The energy of a man who doesn't chase, who doesn't beg, who doesn't prove. He just is, and that is the secret she can't resist. You see, the kind of man she never forgets isn't remembered because he gave her a perfect moment. He's remembered because he became a fracture in her expectations. Every man before him followed the same tired formula. Show interest, pour attention, ask for validation, escalate quickly and fall apart the second pressure hit. That's what she expects now. A man who burns bright and fast and then fades the moment he doesn't get what he wants. But when you show up differently, when you show up like a mystery wrapped in mastery, her nervous system doesn't know how to process it. Her instincts flare, her mind races. You don't follow the pattern, you break it. And now, you're dangerous, not because you hurt her, but because you shook her world without even trying. You're not loud, you're not flashy, you're contained, you're aware. And that's what makes her feel like you're operating from a different level. Of reality, like you've already conquered the games she's used to playing. That sensation is rare, and rarity creates tension. Tension creates arousal, and arousal, that's the birthplace of memory. Women don't remember men who gave them flowers. They remember the man who made the world stop when he looked at them. The man who walked away not because he didn't care, but because his presence was never for free. You don't need to be cruel. You don't need to manipulate. You need to become scarcity, not as a tactic and as a truth. Your energy must become something that can't be found easily. And the only way to do that is to cut access, emotionally, physically, digitally. You stop being always available. You stop giving the world your energy in hopes it gives you something back. Instead, you choose who gets proximity. You choose who gets to see behind the curtain. And once you stop needing to be seen, that's when they start noticing you. Most men have no gravity because they leak themselves constantly, through over-explaining, through approval-seeking, through emotional outbursts disguised as authenticity. But the man with gravity doesn't need to declare anything. He just walks in silence, speaks with intent, leaves when he must, stays only when it adds to his value. That kind of man rewrites the chemistry of any room he walks into. And women don't just want him, they study him. They overthink his pauses. They replay the things he didn't say. Because his restraint is the loudest thing they've ever heard. Understand this. The feminine doesn't crave predictability. It craves depth, presence, power. Not the brute kind, the restrained kind. The kind you only feel when a man has mastered himself. When he doesn't try to impress, when he lets his essence speak louder than his words. She doesn't need you to say you're strong. She needs to feel it in how you stand, how you look at her, how you make decisions, how you can sit in silence and let her anxiety rise, not to punish her, but to teach her that your peace can't be shaken by her storms. Because here's the secret most men never learn. Women want to feel your edge, not in violence, not in manipulation, but in self-control, in the way you don't respond immediately, in the way you look at her when she tests you, not with anger, but with calm indifference. Like you've seen this game before and it doesn't move you. That calmness, that unreactive masculinity, that's what drives her mad, because she realizes you can't be manipulated by the things that used to control every man before you. You want to know what keeps her loyal? It's not fear, it's not desperation, it's emotional tension. The kind that says this man could disappear at any time, not because he's unstable, but because he chooses himself above everything. He is his own authority. He doesn't beg. He doesn't explain. He simply decides. And when she feels when she realizes that she's dealing with someone who won't bend just to keep her, she respects you. Even if she doesn't say it, even if she pushes you, she feels the boundary and it turns her on because that's what she's starving for. Boundaries. Not walls, not cowardice. Boundaries, strong ones, clear ones, masculine ones, the kind that tell her you can come close, but not without value, not without grace, not without surrender. And when you finally let her in, when you finally do open the door, it doesn't feel like a moment. It feels like a privilege, because she worked for it, because it was earned, because she felt what it cost her to break through your silence. And now she doesn't just want you, she respects you. She fears losing you. And that fear, that subtle edge of loss, that's the fire underneath true desire. That's how you go from "he was nice" to "I still think about him." That's how you go from a memory to a mark, the kind she carries into every relationship after you, the kind she compares every man to, even if she never says your name out loud. Because deep down, she knows. She didn't just meet a man, she met a standard. One that didn't chase, one that didn't flinch, one that made her rise or vanish. And the best part, you didn't have to lie, you didn't have to pretend, you didn't have to play games, you just had to own yourself. Every flaw, every strength, every silence, every truth, that ownership, that full unapologetic. Ownership is what separates you from 99% of men. They seek approval, you seek alignment, they seek affection. You seek resonance, they seek comfort. You seek truth. And that truth, it burns, it offends, but it also attracts. Because at the end of the day, women don't fall for perfection. They fall for presence, not the loud kind. The kind that says nothing but changes everything. You become that presence not by trying harder, but by needing less. And that is the secret they can't resist.